So if you're watching this video today, I means I don't have any guests. I have a lot of guests lined up, but getting schedules all set, getting those schedules set with the weather, the wind, the tide, and other things like COVID has put a damper on getting people out as regularly as I'd like. I do have a list of people, but we're working on it. Good morning. Welcome to Quoth the Raven. We are driving to Raven, but I don't think we're sailing today. We haven't really sailed much recently. As much of the country has been facing, we here in the Northeast are also facing this heat wave and humidity that is just oppressive. Heat index well over 100 many days, and it's not conducive for fun sailing. I went out a couple of weeks ago with my wife. We had a quick errand to run before we went out. We planned to get out early. Unfortunately, that quick errand, that 15-minute errand, turned into a 2-hour errand. By the time we got out on the water, it was pretty hot. By the time we got back, we were both feeling pretty crappy. Now I'm a ski patroller, and heat injury is not one of the things that I deal with. But heat injury can be really, really serious, and you're on a boat where you have white sails, you have water that's all reflecting that sunlight, that heat right at you. And by the way, just an aside, if you're on certain kind of medications, you got to be extra careful. If you're on blood pressure medications, if you're on antidepressants, if you're on even common allergy medications, if you take this, you are more susceptible to heat injury. Those medications tend to dilate the blood vessels, so blood can flow and heat can be dissipated from your body. But those medications do the same thing, and by doing that, your body cannot dilate those blood vessels any more than they are. So this is something that you really should check with your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a ski patroller. I don't have a lot of experience with heat injuries, but I am wary for myself, my family, and anybody that I bring out on the boat with me. So we are heading to the boat, and the back of the car is filled with tools, which is a little bit of a dilemma because I had kind of made the promise to myself that spring and fall were for boat work, and summer was for sailing. But I've come into an issue partially with the Hudson, the lack of rain we've had, the heat. The Hudson low tide is really low. I mean, below chart normals. I have run aground about 3 times now, outside the buoys, not in the channels, but out, where my charts say I have 6 feet, and I'm running aground and I draft 3. So the water is really low. So that's been an issue. Captain Q says when you buy a boat, don't do any work to it, go sail it, see what it needs. And what I need is a depth sounder. So I bought a depth sounder, in-hull transducer, and a Raymarine I-40, which I'm going to at least start the installation today. I did some work the other day, everything out. I had to build kind of a wedge to alleviate the very high dead rise that my boat has. Well, I have the makeshift workbench set up again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a base for that P79, an angled base. And what I'm going to use is just this old soup container. And I'm going to pour some epoxy and put it on an angle. I was going to use thickened epoxy, but I lent my thickened epoxy to somebody, so I don't have it. So I just have some of this that I'm going to cut up and mix in. Gloves on. Now, 100 grams of this. We'll see what it looks like. We might go 50. Okay, so we have 66 grams of that. So we're going to do 12 grams of this. And one thing about this scale is it doesn't register right away. So we're going up to 78. We got a little stir stick. Alright, so I just got my trusty Leatherman here. There we go. It's 81 degrees at 7:45 in the morning. Not going to plan to work much past 10 o'clock. Again, it's another day with a heat index upwards of 100. So I'm only going to work for an hour or two, see what I can get done. Maybe I can get the I-40 instrument installed. Maybe I can get the wedge for the transducer epoxied in place. So it is really scorching out here already. My plan is to mount the display unit. Here, let me show you. Right back here, there's room where I took the battery switch out. How I'm going to find that spot, I don't know if this is going to work, but I have two high-powered magnets. I'm going to put one on one side, one on the other, and hopefully they stick, and that'll give me a sense of where to drill. All right, so there's the magnet on one side, and see if we can peek through here, and there's the magnet on the other. And that's giving me the exact spot on where to drill. Hole drilled in boat, sanded with 80 grit to smooth out the rough edges. Now we'll mount, we'll clean it up with a little alcohol and then mount the display unit. Here's the I-40 depth sounder and the instructions. I've read the instructions a couple of times, but I'll check them one more time. Due to the steep dead rise of the boat, I built this wedge out of fiberglass and epoxy resin, and now I've just glued this into place, and we're going to let that set before we mount the in-hull transducer. Alright, so this is all. I determined that we were at about 16 degrees as opposed to the 30 plus degrees before with the wedge. And now I silicone that in. Now once that sets up, then all I have to do is install a transducer, and that's another 5 minutes, and then my depth sounder works. So I'm very excited. Don't have to calibrate it, but I'm pretty excited. It's a good process. Well, good morning. I'm heading back to the boat. I'm really upset with myself. I think I might have left my GoPro somewhere around the boat. I had a lot of good footage of me installing the depth sounder, which is now, who knows. So it's one of the detriments of working when the heat index is, you know, high 90s, low 100s. You just tend to kind of forget everything that you need to know. And I think I might have lost my GoPro. So Arg. Alright, well, we'll see. One of the great things about keeping my boat at the Queens Landing Marina is that there's a sense of family, a sense of community, and camaraderie. So, yeah, I was carrying I had all my tools in a cart. I was wheeling it off. The GoPro fell off the cart, was stuck, just left on the dock. Cynical me would see most people, or at least many people, if they found a GoPro, would just take it. But Wes found it and turned it in, and so I did save the footage. But it does really speak to the fact that I was so hot and so exhausted. I spoke earlier that it was supposed to be 1 hour of work, and I actually worked for about 2.5. It was 11:30 by the time I got done work, and it was not fun. So here's the transducer, and it's marked with different angle markers here, and we determined the other day that it was 16 degrees. So this 16 degrees, this mark is going to line up with this mark on the mounting ring, and I'm going to screw those together. So that's the first step. Okay, so the O-ring is all Vaselined up. Now, here's the interesting thing. The directions call for 71 milliliters of propylene glycol, or non-toxic antifreeze in there, but because I have that wedge in there, I'm going to have to put more in there, and hopefully that extra will not inhibit the work, what the transducer is trying to do. So we're going to pour it in and test it out. Plug the transducer into the display unit. The moment of truth. There we go.